sales, you know that your customer information is everything. It's the lifeblood of your business. But what happens when that info changes? Inside a system as powerful as SAP S4Hana. And if you get it wrong, oh man, that can lead to shipping nightmares, billing headaches, and some seriously unhappy customers. Today, we're going to demystify how customer master data really works so you can handle it like a pro. All right, let's jump in. So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why this is even a problem. Then we'll meet SAP's big solution, the business partner. After that, we're going to walk through what happens when you actually make changes, see the ripple effect it causes, and then uncover one really important exception to the rule that you have to know. All right, first up, the master data problem, or as I like to think of it, the high cost of a very simple, very human mistake. So let's kick things off with a super common scenario. Your biggest, best customer gives you a call. Hey, we've moved. Seems simple enough, right? Just update the address. But what's actually happening under the hood in the system when you do that? Because think about it. If you don't get that address right, your shipments end up in the wrong place. That means costly delays and angry customers. Or what if you negotiate new payment terms, but they don't get updated? Suddenly, you're sending out incorrect invoices and their finance team is on the phone, not happy. These aren't just little clerical errors. These are real business problems that can hurt your bottom line and, worse, damage that customer relationship you worked so hard to build. So, how does SAP S4HANA help us avoid all this chaos? Well, that brings us to our next section where we meet the hero of our story, the business partner. This is SAP's really elegant way of creating one single source of truth. So, what is a business partner? Well, in SAP S4HANA, it's the one central place where you manage all your master data. And here's the really cool part. It's not just for your customers. It's for your vendors, your contacts, basically anyone you do business with. It's a unified approach, which means no more scattered information. Everyone is singing from the same song sheet. And this slide just says it all, right? Instead of having one record for a company when you sell to them and a different one when you buy from them, it's all unified. One partner, one record. That is your one source of truth across the whole company. Okay, so we've got this beautiful centralized record. Perfect, right? Well, business never stands still. Things are always changing. And that brings us right to our next section, making master data changes. Let's make this real with an example. Let's say your customer negotiates better payment terms. They now get 45 days to pay instead of 30. So you go into their business partner record, you make the change. Easy. But, and this is the important part, what happens next? I mean, really think about it for a second. What about all those open sales orders you put in the system for them yesterday, back when the terms were still 30 days? Does the system just magically go back and update all of them? And that question right there leads us straight into what I call the ripple effect, understanding how these changes actually flow, or in some cases don't flow through the system. Okay, and here it is. This is the big fundamental rule you absolutely have to remember. Changing the master data does not automatically change the sales documents that you've already created. The system basically takes a snapshot of the data at the exact moment you create that order. So here's how that plays out. Any of those old sales orders are basically locked in with the old 30-day terms. If you need to change them, you've got to go in and do it one by one manually. But any new sales orders you create from this point forward, they will automatically pull in those fresh, new 45-day terms.
Okay, so that rule, it makes sense, right? It's consistent, it's logical, it applies to almost everything, but there is one major exception. And that brings us to our last and honestly our most critical section, the address exception. This is the one change that breaks the rule and sends ripples absolutely everywhere. So just look at how this breaks down. It's so clear. You can change payment terms, shipping conditions, you name it, and your old documents stay just as they were. But you change the address, bam. That change immediately flows through and updates all open sales orders, deliveries, everything. Why? Because the system's number one priority is making sure things get to the right place. It always wants the latest, most accurate address. And get this, SAP actually gives you even more control here. Let's say your customer tells you, hey, we're moving next month. You don't have to set a calendar reminder. You can go into the system right now and set up a time-dependent address change, telling it to automatically switch over on, say, the first of the month. It's a really powerful feature to help you stay ahead of the game.
All right, let's do a quick knowledge check here, just to make sure this is sinking in. When you go to create a brand new sales document for a customer, where does all that information, the address, the terms, all of it, where does it come from? And the answer, of course, is that it's all copied right at that moment from the business partner customer master record. And that's exactly why that single source of truth we talked about is so unbelievably important for your day-to-day work. So that brings us to the big takeaway here. We've seen that changing one little field, like an address, has this huge, immediate impact. But changing another, like payment terms, doesn't. And it all points to one thing. Getting your data right isn't just boring admin work. It's a critical part of managing your customer relationships. So I guess the question I want to leave you with is this. What processes do you have in place to make sure your master data is always 100% correct?
Have you ever stopped